Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to our friends who are joining us from America and the Americas today. I'm really delighted to be here. It's actually my 7th time at this conference, but today in very different circumstances. My name is Jayne Brady, and I'm the Digital Innovation Commissioner for Belfast, and formerly Venture Capital with Kernel Capital. I'm really delighted to be here today. The topic of our panel is how tech companies can play their part in the recovery. And I think we've all seen over the past 3 months how tech has been so critical in terms of supporting us through the pandemic, but also enabling us to stay connected. And actually, as preparation for the panel, I had the great honour of talking to our panellists today and really hearing very much how they have been pivotal within their organisations in terms of leading from a technology perspective. I want to introduce the panel just very briefly. I know their bios are all provided and the links for the piece, but just by way of introduction, we have with me here in Belfast, Healy, who is the CEO of Allstate Northern Ireland. Joining us from the US, we have Hanweck, who is Vice President, formerly of Hanweck Associates, but now with Cboe Global Markets. We've got Goldstone calling in from Manhattan, who is Senior Partner with Forepont. We have Giancarlo, Vece, who is calling in from Guadalajara, but a CEO of Unosquare with an office in Belfast. And we've got Sophie McDonald again, calling in from Belfast, who is Head of Analytics at Options IT. So I'd just like to first, I guess, talk to how those businesses and those organisations have dealt with the last 3 months within their organisations and how IT has been underpinned that. So first of all, I'd like to ask John to maybe share some of his experiences.
Jayne, thanks very much. So Allstate, and our American viewers will think of Allstate as a big insurance company, but here in Northern Ireland, we're thought of predominantly as a technology company. We're providing the technology support for the organisation back in the US, and we have 2,400 employees here. And in terms of the crisis and getting people out of the office and into their homes to continue to deliver that technology and the technology support to our business and our customers in the US was just amazingly flawless. We actually made a decision the week before the official lockdown that we were going to get our employees to work from home, and our employees were just fantastic. I'm so proud of the response. The amount of effort that employees have put in to make working from home the success that it has been, so that we can continue to serve our customers, to serve the corporation back in the US. I think it's a real testament to what can be done in a crisis.
Thanks, Sean. That's really great to hear. Maybe I'd like to pick up with Mark. Mark, who's based in New York, regarding your experience kind of working through this period, and also I know you're a very tireless advocate of Belfast-based businesses. So maybe just some of your experience of working through those through your investments over the past period, Mark.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Jayne. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I think we are sort of a semi-virtual company anyway. As you know, Jayne, in the investment side, teams are fairly lean. We're a pretty global organization. We've got offices in London and Paris as well as New York. So we're very used to being on video conference calls for most of the day. So that's not been a huge change for us. I think the big change is that, if you're in an investment company and you're investing in companies, what you're really investing in is people. And that final part of meeting people and getting to know them and being really close to them is definitely very difficult in this current climate. Luckily, a lot of the investments we've got right now, we've met a lot of those people in advance. We've been together with them for a long time. And we're at the stage where we're really just finalizing deals, which includes some companies in Belfast and Northern Ireland. We've been continuing to meet with them on a regular basis, mostly online. And in that respect, it hasn't changed much because we've already had a lot of time with them. But I think, going forward, it's going to be difficult. You want to go and feel and touch some of the products and the things that you're investing in. So it's going to be important to get back in there and see people and work together closely with them.
Okay, that's very helpful. Maybe, Giancarlo, John was talking about the experience of him leading kind of, a strong FDI presence here in Belfast. I guess be interested in your experience of how Unosquare has performed from the Belfast perspective during this period.
Yeah, absolutely. So, similar to what John was saying, we applied the rules, social distancing and all these things, probably a week before it was official. Also through the government, and after it was official through the government, we stopped our operation there. We closed our office, and everybody's working from home. We set up VPNs, and we set up secure connections for everybody to work from home. We facilitated the equipment, monitors, their headsets, everything that they had in the offices so that they could take it home, work from home. But it's very interesting how, now it seems to me now, it's similar to what Mark was saying. We're also global. We have, offices in 5 or 6 cities in the world. And, it's interesting how now, people miss the office, so there's a bit of humanity and culture that, people want to go back to as well. So it's interesting how to see that mix, because people like working remotely, but also like working in an environment with other people. So that's an interesting piece that we've seen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, just maybe Jerry, bringing you into this point, you've, I guess, had quite a transition from kind of Hanweck and then through the acquisition piece. So maybe just, given your experience as a small organisation and then, the development into a larger organisation, how that's been found and how Belfast has factored in that?
Yes, thanks, Jayne, and good morning, everyone. So I think, to put it a little context, Hanweck was a 30-person company globally. We have a fairly small presence in Belfast, but big from our perspective, about 8 or 9 people. And so, we went from that to being acquired by Cboe Global Markets, which is about 1,000-person organization. It's options, one of the leading options exchanges in the world. I think the transition was fairly smooth given everything that occurred. Sort of following up on Giancarlo's point, the hardest part of doing merger integration into a new organization when you can't visit people physically is that lack of sort of social contact. And we're all social animals at heart. Well, maybe not everybody in the IT world, but most people are social animals at heart. And, that lack of social interaction made things a little tricky. But by and large, operationally, and even I think from a personnel standpoint, everyone's kind of found their footing and is getting by on video conferencing. And I think, to the point of Belfast, though, it's made Belfast stands out to the Cboe management now as a great locale, a place they'd not really looked at, but as a great locale to put, a lot of technology build, us being there as well as just everything that Belfast has from an infrastructure and education and workforce standpoint.
Thanks, Jerry. I mean, that's really stood out to me in the discussions I've had, is the resilience of the actual tech team in Belfast. That it's been tested, I guess, but it has risen to that perspective. And maybe Sophie, I'll bring you in here as well, because when we were talking, you were discussing how kind of recruitment is still ongoing, and you had commitments to staff and how you're delivering that. So maybe give us some of the options kind of perspective as well.
Yeah. So I think we've had a really positive experience so far with it. I mean, a lot of us work from home throughout the year anyway, maybe evenings and weekends, but nobody would really work consistently at home. So we had great leadership at the start in making sure we had the right equipment and that all of the right hardware, headsets, monitors were bought. And since then, had hardly any hiccups, but everybody is working really seamlessly from now. Since then, I think the big thing for us now, a huge part of what makes options really great, is our culture and how we communicate with each other. So we're leveraging video conferencing a lot now and trying to bring more of the social aspect virtually. So different activities. I think we actually have David Mead from Belfast coming in next week to do an event with us, just to keep everybody engaged and communicating with each other.
That's great. And I guess the panel that we have here today, it's a real strong fintech, regtech kind of theme, but also that medtech aspects. And looking towards post-pandemic, what are the sectors that are, I guess, are critical to us moving forward in the areas of investment? There seems to be themes of those areas which are actually really strong. And maybe just want to bring in some of the panel to discuss kind of ideas around that. And maybe, John, firstly, kind of your view of where kind of fintech and that perspective, that broader perspective, can play in terms of rebuilding our economy.
I think what we've shown and the resilience that we've shown as a sector, the fact that we've been able to get everybody home and continue on and really maintain a high level of productivity has really set us up for this next phase, which is the rebuild. There's an amazing cluster here in Northern Ireland of fintech companies. And that's both from a foreign direct investment perspective as well as startups. And I can really see a lot of innovation coming through there and really helping to feed the recovery and to bring forward new products. Even within our own business, we're seeing the way that we have changed how we interact with our customers while we're all at home. We're having innovations coming through around, well, how could we take that forward, and how are we going to interact with our customers in the future? Because just as we've got used to the world of work at home, our customers have got used to interacting with different businesses in this new way, and as companies right across the financial sector, we're coming forward with new ideas, new products, new innovations, and with a cluster of companies that are here, the infrastructure that underpins that, not just the physical infrastructure but also the educational infrastructure, we're well set here in terms of continuing to develop. That is an important sector for here, and an important sector that will help to take us out of this crisis. Maintain that level of employment that it has done through the crisis, and out and beyond.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, the viewers will probably be aware, but there's 40,000 employees in the fintech sector in Belfast, and actually a strong cluster at all areas around that as well.
Yeah, it is, for some people who come, and I get to meet a lot of inward investors who come to see what Allstate has managed to do over the 20 years that we've operated out of here, and they are always surprised at the size and the scale, not just of our operation, but of the sector as a whole.
Okay, that's great. And actually, Mark, maybe if I would just bring up with you as well, because I guess from the fintech seems to be a clear theme in terms of that resilience, keeping going during this, but also the importance as we go forward in terms of rebuilding our economy. But your, I guess, a specific interest in the health and life sciences. So maybe just to kind of give your view of kind of what Belfast might have to offer in that regard.
Well, I think there's a number of areas. One thing, of course, that's really top of mind is that things like telemedicine have been around for a long time. Sort of bubbling under as a tool, as a service, in some places saying, does this work, does it not? Well, we've just had this massive product testing, if you like. So we know it works now. It's delivered healthcare directly to people's homes. So huge benefits of doing that we will change how we deliver healthcare, how healthcare is received, and how we engage in healthcare. So, that for alone can improve outcomes. For example, a lot of people just don't want to go to the doctor because it's a hassle. How do I have to take a whole day off work? I've got to go and see the doctor. That's a hassle. So it's not that bad. I'll just skip it now. With something like telemedicine, you can go, there's no excuse, straight on. It also means that you can leverage healthcare professionals from all over the province, for example. So you can manage costs in a whole different way. Now, if you overlay that with things like 3D printing, point-of-care diagnostics, blockchain, there's a huge deep roots in diagnostics and all of those items in Northern Ireland. Putting them together, adding to what's already happened, I think is a huge opportunity. And it's not about saying, how do we build this for the future? It's now, it's already happened. We've been delivering that now. And that's one of the things. How do we take that now and use that momentum and keep it going? Huge opportunity for change for the better.
Yeah, I think those are two really clear takeaways that we really need to build into this rebuilding plan. I guess I think there's about 300 people dialed in today, many of them policymakers. So maybe just to reflect with Jerry and Giancarlo as kind of investors into Belfast, is there any things that you think, first of all with Jerry, that policymakers can take on board in order to make this more attractive for you as an investment location, or one activity that would accelerate your kind of views and investment plans?
Yeah, I would say, certainly continue building up the technology infrastructure. I think the educational infrastructure is fantastic. The technology infrastructure is key to, I think, how this new work from home or work remotely paradigm is going to evolve. And that means more than just the city. I think it means building out high-speed internet and other technologies into the more remote areas so that people can work remotely. And that will draw business into the Belfast, Northern Ireland, and Ireland in general.
Okay, that's great. And Giancarlo, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Jerry just said. I think Belfast maybe needs to be, presented as a hub, as it is presented now, but also with the ability in the, catchment area, I believe is what you call it, from other parts of Ireland and the UK as well, where, Belfast can be that hub, but with, better infrastructure, people can work remotely from those locations, and then you have a much bigger talent pool to pull from.
Okay, that's great. And Sophie, I think we chatted, you had some kind of creative ideas as well regarding how kind of Belfast could try to accelerate that as well. Maybe you could share some thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. So I think at the minute there's such a unique opportunity for everyone to work from home. So although we've had the technology to be able to work from home for years, really, there hasn't really been as much global acceptance of it. But now you see like big companies like Twitter coming out and saying that, their employees can now work from home for as long as they need to, even post-pandemic. So I think there's a real opportunity for Belfast to be put on the map. We have so many talented tech people here and great infrastructure that we should be seen. We should be seen to be, one of the next big tech hubs. And so it would be great for policymakers to help facilitate and fund that to really put Belfast on the map, I think.
Yeah, that's good. I like the out-of-the-box thinking, I guess, like the things that are now possible that you couldn't have imagined before the pandemic when we've proven the remote working paradigm. But actually, maybe just coming to John, and something very close to my heart, but John has been a tireless advocate of kind of that inclusion and digital inclusion piece and inclusion of all members of our kind of society into this kind of tech vision. And I guess before this, we had all a skills shortage. It was probably the number one issue. We talked about in the tech sector of what we needed to do to address this. And possibly in this chance, there's maybe a chance to build up capacity. So any thoughts that you had? I know they're very specific leadership, John, and you can...
Yeah, so in terms of that capacity and capability, it has to be around skills and the investment into skills. But as we come out of this crisis, we're going to have a whole lot of people who are reevaluating what it is that they want to do with their career. And now is a great opportunity to highlight the opportunities that there are in technology, specifically in the fintech and the medtech and the regtech that you're highlighting. And what we need to do is make sure that we're going out there and that we are talking to the whole of society, that we are especially focusing on female talent into technology, a hugely underrepresented sector. But now there's an opportunity as people maybe are thinking about what they want to do for the next phase of their career to have that conversation. Traditionally people have said, it's all about the flexibility in the workplace, and that maybe keeps some females out of the tech world. Well, what we've shown through this crisis is just how flexible we can be as a sector, how successful we can be with people with all sorts of different work patterns that they're having to adopt to manage through the pandemic. And it's a great time for us to say all these myths have been busted. Let's see what we can do to attract the best talent into the sector, to grow it, and have the policymakers invest in the skills to allow us to develop the talent through, build that capacity, and increase the overall capability within our workforces.
No, I think that's really interesting perspective, because I guess there might be the risk that maybe companies aren't recruiting to such a level that we step back and don't feed that talent pool and don't use this.
So we've seen this before, coming off the back of the 2008 crisis, that we went through a period where flat was the new up. We were all working hard to maintain what we had installed. But we very quickly saw, coming off the back of that there is an insatiable demand for tech skills. And what we have is a fantastic asset in Northern Ireland in terms of the installed technology base that we have, and the fantastic companies represented here today, and many, many others. And the opportunity is to grow, not to pause and think, let's wait and see, but to continue in the investment in skills so that we're ready whenever the uptake, whenever it is required.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's fascinating. Maybe just leaving the final remarks maybe to yourself, Mark, as well, and how you have found the skills base. I guess when you're looking due diligence into investments and you've a couple of investments in hand, what's your view of the skills and opportunity in terms of the calibre of individuals and research you find in Belfast?
So we think there's a phenomenal opportunity there. I mean, there's a huge talent pool from an academic perspective in research and development in pharmaceuticals and biotech and diagnostics. I think the key is to be able to focus on that and to give those people the room to develop a real commercial opportunity. All the pieces are there. It just needs a little catalyst to help it go. And I think to overlay on that, access to markets and to the commercial side of things. So academic research is one side, but getting the commercial overlay and partnering with people that can allow those great teams and people in Northern Ireland to be able to get access into bigger markets in the commercial way. So huge opportunity. And I think what's really important to think about is that see what's happened now as a springboard for the future. Not to think about rebuilding, how do we quickly rebuild what we've had, but to use this as a chance to build the future now rather than go back and rebuild what we had before. Mm-hmm. So I think a great opportunity to make change happen faster.
No, I totally agree. And actually, I'd like to thank all the panel who have come. I think we've got lots of really clear takeaways that we may use technology and innovation to build a better future back, and actually that we have all the building blocks in Belfast on which to grow that kind of new opportunity. So thank you very much to all my panel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jayne.
Well, Giancarlo, coming to us from Guadalajara, makes 4 continents represented here at New York, New Belfast today. I want to thank Jerry Hanweck in New York, our dear friend Mark Goldstone, who's also a sponsor of today's conference, Jayne and John here as well for being part of a compelling discussion about the next steps